What's up guys, my name is Ace, and today I wanted to do something a little bit different. As you guys probably know, I am primarily a Call of Duty channel, and that's pretty much all I upload, but a brand new game just dropped yesterday, out of nowhere basically. There were a few leaks leading up to it, but not really any promotion leading up to it. And this game is called Apex Legends. It's a free-to-play battle royale game that's set within the Titanfall universe, although it's not Titanfall, and you can probably see that pretty clearly. It's on PS4, Xbox, as well as PC, and I hopped on, I played several games now, and I wanted to share my initial impressions of this game. Keep in mind, this is not a sponsored video. I'm not affiliated with Respawn or Apex Legends at all. This is just my honest opinions after several games of playing Apex Legends. So just a brief overview, like I said, this game is set within the universe of Titanfall, and it has a very similar feel to Titanfall. It is based on the same engine and everything, so it feels very familiar if you're used to playing Titanfall, but it's not all about Titans and pilots and stuff. Instead, we've got these new characters, and these characters have different abilities, and they kind of work together as a squad to be able to try and get the victory. Currently, this game is only 3v3. You can't play solos, you can't play 4v4 or duos, it's just 3v3. But I am pretty confident they will be adding more modes and changing things in the future when it comes to that. The game starts with 60 players, and then from there it's a pretty standard battle royale formula. Like, there are a bunch of unique things about this game, but in general it plays just like most other battle royale games. You come in on some sort of a drop plane or drop ship or something at the beginning, you bail out, choose where you want to land. From there there's a circle that will incrementally shrink as the game goes on until everybody is dead. So those are the basics, just for those people that have never seen this game before, to get a basic understanding of how it works. Now I want to get into what I'm liking so far about this game, and then towards the end of the video, I'm going to be sharing things that I'm not really a fan of or that I really don't like about this game. So the first thing that I like about this game is it's free to play and it's not pay to win, at least in its current state, and it doesn't look like it's going to be in the future. Any one of you right now can just go onto your PlayStation Store or Xbox Live Store or on your PC, and you can download and play this 100% free. Everything that you can pay for with real money in this game is 100% cosmetic only, and it appears that Respawn actually has control over that and not EA. So it looks like it's going to remain cosmetic only, which is the right formula for a battle royale game. Now, I'm not going to be able to help myself comparing this to Blackout as this goes on, because like I said at the beginning, I'm a Call of Duty channel, and when it comes to the free-to-play aspects, this is something that I really hope Call of Duty learns from, and I'm hoping that Blackout will eventually become free-to-play. The next thing that I noticed that I really like about this, before even getting into the game, is the settings. Especially on console, we've got a lot of extra settings that console doesn't often get with their games. We actually have a field of view slider, which is excellent to see, something that Call of Duty has never had on console. And there's a ton of other customization options that you have available, and I was quite impressed when I saw all these settings that you can tweak. Now, getting into the gameplay itself, I really like the overall feel of the gunplay. It's just like Titanfall, like I said, it feels exactly like Titanfall. It's actually the exact same weapons that were in Titanfall, so you'll recognize a lot of the names and the looks of the guns. And I think that's a very good thing. It feels great. That's something that Titanfall has always done a great job with, is the actual gunfights themselves. I think it feels awesome. The time to kill also feels like it's in a good place, where you usually don't absolutely melt somebody before they can even react to what's going on, but at the same time, fights generally don't stretch on for too long unless you have that maxed out armor. As for the movement, this also seems to feel great based on my initial impressions of this. You can climb up on a lot of things, even if it's above your head. You can easily like wall run yourself up and climb on top of things, which I think is excellent in this game. Unfortunately, there's no wall runs like we're used to in Titanfall. I really like that aspect of Titanfall, and I was hoping it would return for this game, but after seeing the map layout and everything, it seems to make sense to me that there's no wall runs. I don't really feel as though I'm really missing out without them, but at the same time, there's still a small part of me that kind of wishes that that option was at least there. Next up, I like the way that the looting system works. It seems to be quite intuitive, it makes sense, it's really simple and easy to pick up as well, which I think is important in a battle royale game for attracting new players. Also, when it comes to looting players' death stashes, it's not like Fortnite where they have just all the loot explode around them. You have to actually loot their death stash, and I was very pleasantly surprised that it's quite intuitive on console. I had no problem whatsoever with looting after a couple games of getting used to it. So I think they did a relatively good job with the looting system, and that kind of leads into the next thing that I wanted to talk about, is this game's pretty easy to just pick up and play. Yes, there's definitely a slight learning curve to it. You have to understand what all the loot is, which ammo works with which guns, what sort of attachments do what, and I'm still learning a lot of these things. But generally speaking, if you play through the training and you play a couple games, by that time you should have a decent understanding of how things are working around you so that you can get yourself through a game without any big problems. Now, one thing that I do think slows the learning curve down a little bit is the abilities that each different character type has. That's another aspect of the learning curve that I think will take a bit more time for people to understand. I still don't fully understand all of the abilities and how they work and everything. But at least for those people that pick up the game for the first time, they should have no problem just getting into the game and having a good time with it. Getting into a couple specific things that they've done that I haven't seen in any other Battle Royale games. The first thing is the respawn beacon. I can't remember if that's exactly what it's called, but essentially if your squad mates go down and are completely eliminated from the game, there is still an opportunity for you to resurrect them if you can get to one of these beacons. And when you get to this beacon, you can actually start reviving your teammates, but that requires you to stand still for a pretty long time. So it's definitely a high risk, high reward sort of a maneuver. And I'm sure once people get a feel for this game, they will start camping those beacons out so they can pick those people off and finish off the squad. But I do like that there's that option there, so you don't completely lose hope if your squad mates are completely eliminated, but at the same time, it's balanced in the sense that it's not super easy to bring somebody back from the dead. Another thing that I absolutely love about this game, and I feel this should be a staple of all Battle Royale games, is what they call the ping system. Now this ping system, at least on console, you use R1 for this, and if you hold R1, a ton of different options appear for you to tell your teammates what you want to do or what you're going to do. You can really easily tell them, I'm going to attack this position, or I'm going to defend this position, or I'm going to go loot over in this area here. Or if you wanted to, you can mark where you just spotted an enemy by simply double tapping R1 on console. And I think it's just such an intuitive system, and it's the best system that I've ever seen that I can think of for communicating with teammates without using voice chat or without typing on a keyboard in a team chat on PC. Now, I know some other Battle Royale games have a system kind of like this, but I haven't seen anything like this that's this detail-oriented as well as intuitive to use. And this brings us to another more general thing that I wanted to talk about that I kind of like about this game is I feel like they found a nice middle ground between a full-on like cartoon type of a Battle Royale game like Fortnite and a more realistic looking Battle Royale like PUBG or Blackout. Apex Legends isn't the most realistic game out there. You've definitely got these different characters that are a little bit on the quirky side, and some features are definitely exaggerated in certain ways. And I've seen a lot of people compare the art style to Overwatch, and I would say definitely in the menus, they look a lot like Overwatch characters, but not too much when you're actually in the game itself. But the overall environment and everything, it's got that nice amount of realism mixed in where it doesn't feel like you're playing a kid's game or like a cartoon. But at the same time, it doesn't take itself too seriously, and it's not all about like hyper-realism or anything like that. I think this is going to be good for them because it opens up a lot of opportunity for cosmetic items that they can get a little bit crazy with while still maintaining the theme of the game. Whereas games like PUBG and Blackout, I feel like they're limited a lot in those ways because if you get too crazy with things, then it just doesn't fit within the game. At the same time though, I think Apex Legends looks great. It's got excellent quality graphics. The art style I think fits really nicely and it looks really good. And I do think they found a great middle ground in this area. One last thing I wanted to mention before we get into the things that I didn't like so much, and this is something I just found out about in the middle of this recording. This game runs at a steady 60 FPS on console, or at least on the PS4 Pro I saw some tests of this, and this is great to see. I know that should be expected this day and age on a console FPS game, but that's not necessarily the case when you look at a bunch of the AAA shooters out there. So now let's get into the things that I really don't like about this game, or maybe I just have a slight dislike for. Keeping in mind, this is still very early. Some of these opinions might change over time, and also the game will be changing over time. But the first thing that I wasn't really a fan of hopping in for the first time is the only available mode is 3v3. I couldn't hop on and play solo if I wanted to. I have to play with a 3-man team. To make things even worse with this is a specific issue that I had. I was unable to play with Enya. Enya's my girlfriend. She sits right next to me on her gaming station. And for whatever reason, we could get into the same lobby together when we're looking at like the main menu. We could get into that lobby together. But anytime we would search for a game, it would separate us automatically and throw us into different games. Now, if there's some sort of a NAT type issue or something, I can understand that, but it should at least be notifying us that there is that system, or it should stop us from ending up in different games on random teams with random teammates. There should at least be some sort of an error or a message before that's allowed to happen, because when that happens, we have to close our app and restart it in order to get back into the main menu as fast as possible. Otherwise, we have to wait through the whole character selection screen, wait till we drop in, and then at that point we can leave the game, which then screws our random teammates over a little bit. So this one for me is just really frustrating because I was really looking forward to enjoying this game with the person that sits right next to me, and for whatever reason, that's just not working. The next thing that I'm not really a fan of, and of course this is something that might grow on me over time, this is the overall map layout. It seems like a really awkward sort of a map. It seems like they just took a big round area and they started plopping different locations all over it, and they don't really like flow together, they don't mix well together, and just in general, the whole layout of the map just feels awkward. Another thing I wanted to mention is you're often funneled into really narrow canyons, which are obviously like big time death traps or very scary places to be, and I feel like it takes a lot of your navigational freedom away as you're going from point A to point B on the map. Perhaps I just need to get more gameplay time on this and it will grow on me, but as it is right now, my initial impression is that the map isn't that great and it's kind of awkwardly designed. Another thing that I'm not really a fan of at first glance is some of the abilities of these characters, especially the ones that are lethal. I can understand having some non-lethal abilities. I think those are totally cool, like the one where you can sort of phase shift out and you can escape a situation. I think that's totally fine, and that can be used in a lot of really creative ways to enhance the gameplay experience. However, some of these are just straight up lethal abilities, and while I don't have a ton of experience with them now, so I don't know how well they're balanced, it seems to me that these shouldn't really have a place in a battle royale type of a game. In my opinion, it should really be all about that gun-on-gun sort of combat, as well as like frag grenades and equipment and stuff like that. You shouldn't have an instant death just because somebody used an ultimate ability that was super powerful and just immediately takes you out. Now, getting to a couple specific things I wasn't really a fan of, the first one is footstep audio. This is always a big controversial issue with a lot of Battle Royale games, and in my experience so far with this game, I feel like the footsteps are just too quiet by default. I don't think footsteps should be extremely loud so you can hear somebody stomping from a long ways away and then you could just like sit in a corner and wait for them to come into your sights. But at the same time, if somebody's in the same room as me or just outside or something like that, I feel like I should have some notification that they're coming. And I've already run into a few situations where people have run up on me and I didn't hear a single thing until they were at like point blank range. So I think footsteps could definitely use some work in Apex Legends. Maybe a slight buff to the volume of the audio, but not so much the distance at which you can hear footsteps. I think that would be a nice adjustment based on my initial experience with it. And this just leaves us with one last gameplay related thing that I wanted to talk about so far that I've noticed that I don't like about this game, and that is the default magazine capacity. When you first pick up a weapon in this game, your magazine capacity is tiny on every gun that I've picked up so far. We're looking at like 15, 16 rounds somewhere in that area. And in most fights where the enemy is actually moving around and fighting back and everything, it usually takes a couple magazines to be able to finish them off. Now, I do realize there are extended mag attachments that you can pick up around the world to increase that magazine capacity, but I feel like all of that could be bumped up a little bit so that your default magazine capacity is a bit bigger to help you handle fights early game. And then with extended mags, it would be more of a bonus rather than a must-have as you go through the game. Of course, those are just my opinions though, and a lot of these are definitely going to change as I get more experience with the game and as the game changes over time. But overall, my initial impression of Apex Legends, I'm really liking it so far. I think it's got a lot of potential, and I feel like it's going to be a game that I stream from time to time as time goes on. Actually, as you're watching this video right now, assuming you're catching it shortly after upload, I will likely be live right now on my Twitch channel streaming Apex Legends, so if you want to come hang out, see the game a little bit more, ask me some questions, then of course check out the link to my Twitch channel down in the description below. As for YouTube content with Apex Legends, I don't know if I'll be doing much when it comes to that. Of course, part of that depends on how well it's received by you guys, but also it does depend on how inclined I am to actually make YouTube videos about this. But of course, I'd really like to know in the comment section below, what are your guys' initial impressions of Apex Legends so far? Have you played the game yet? If so, do you like it? Do you dislike it? If you haven't played the game, are you planning on downloading it? Like I said, it's completely free to play. Or do you think it's one that you're just going to skip? Just let me know all your opinions down below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.